Let's see how picks and bans go down. Trifecta certainly need to turn this one around. Trifecta was trending up and CLG was trending down totally up until CLG did find a victory last time around. But specifically with these two teams, I mean, this is kind of important for Trifecta to win here.
Oh, it definitely is. And if history will repeat itself, it was CLG winning game number 1 in that previous week 1 matchup. So Trifecta, they're no slouches whenever they lose games. They can easily still sweep it under the rug and then move forward with a clear mindset. Trifecta
immediately ban out the Chung guy. Yeah, I think that's a good move. Circuit and Shibalanke going to be banned by CLG Gaming. And now Trifecta with one more ban before we get into the picks. Giannis.
Makes sense. Hurriwind is just an absolute monster with this god. He has just too much confidence to almost a fault when sometimes he'll over-aggress, but Giannis is a god that forgives certain aggression to be able to still get out of it. Terra still going to be the first pick selection. It's actually what helped a lot of these team fights, that Earth and Fury swinging the damage for your team against the enemy's team. Jigz heavily preferring this pick.
Really big addition to the squad, so we'll see it one more time like in the hands of Jigz. Hoi and Athena going to be locked in for Trifecta here, very similar to game number 1. Totally, what does Hoi say when he gets locked in?
You just heard it over there, Tom.
Very good. 2 more selections over to CLG. They're going to make sure to take the Thoth here for Hurriwind. Very, very strong mid laner and just going to be able to continue doing so. Soul was an interesting look. 2-0-2 was the slash line for Hurriwind. Decent amount of player damage. Did the job. I don't think it was a poor choice, but I think he's looked better on these long-range artillery mages.
The thing was, they needed some sort of consistent follow-up damage with the Osiris for Homiefe. With that many slows from one specific god, you need some sort of basic attack follow-up damage, and that's why Hurriwind not only played the Soul, but built her as a hunter, going for the hasten ring, being able to chase those slow targets.
Yeah, I thought it was a great choice for the moment, but if you have a little bit more wiggle room, enable your mid laner. And the Thoth will go there. Raijin across the way for Trifecta. Love that response. Early game clear, ton of pressure, a lot of good stuff. Hercules is going to be for fineokay. And another reason I like Raijin here, you can see that Snoopy band, the amusing cob. Another reason why I like Raijin here is because Raiju, even all of his abilities, Raijin is very good at spreading hit effects, and buying into Divine Ruin is easy for him. And Raiju and the ultimate and everything easily spreads the anti-heal among everybody.
It's also Paul. And Paul loves his Raijin. He loves to play aggressive. He's found multiple solo kills already throughout his SPL career. So, yes, it does have easy application of that Divine Ruin, but that's on the secondary mindset of Paul. He just wants it because this is one of his favorite gods.
Mercury. Love this choice here for CLG. Mercury's been very, very powerful as of late. Nemesis a little bit not so much, but Mass still going to go to one of his favorite characters, Merc and Hachiman. Trifecta are going to have to keep an eye on their Gold Furies. A lot of structure damage here for CLG.
A lot of attack speed late game. It's going to be scary for Trifecta if they don't get off to that early game start, and that's why Achilles is being last picked for Trifecta with the Nemesis. These two gods in conjunction, they're going to start camping fineokay.
I have trouble with Achilles. I have trouble with execute characters versus healers because you bring them below and then they heal right on up. Both Terra and Hercules could prove to be a thorn in the side of the Achilles.
It's very possible, but that mitigate wounds takes about 4 seconds to pop the healing. There's plenty of time for the Fatal Strike to come out.
Who takes this one?
CLG. Thoth for Hurriwind. I like it. Terra Jigz.
Yeah, I think I like CLG Gaming's draft a little bit better than Trifecta's, but watch out for that Nemesis. Could be something to keep an eye on. Game 2. Handu, be loud.
Yeah, thanks, guys. A good little change up from Trifecta here. Obviously, they're banning away the Chungo this time around. They were worried about that, but does mean fineokay guesses Hercules. However, they've picked against it.
They have, and I think that the combination of Nemesis and Achilles together can be enough to bring them down, but there has to be a dedicated effort from Trifecta to do that more than once. I mean, you have to get multiple kills there in that solo lane, and I think this Mercury pick for Homie is just perfect. Another god that has slow immunity, but now only for himself. He's got to pop that too, but he gets Nem-ulted, and then he presses 2, and you never get to catch him. I don't know. I think that CLG is just a bit ahead in the drafting phase right now.
You guys at home get to think, we'll pick who you think will win this game as well. CLG looks absolutely dominant in game 1. Maybe it'll be the same here. We'll find out. Hopefully Trifecta get something going for themselves this game so I don't fall asleep. during the second game. That'd be great. I'd really appreciate that because it's still early days. We've still got more sets to go. Into game we get underway, and there's a shrub in the dual lane.
Zapman was shrubbing around in game one and looked pretty darn good doing it, so I've got no problem. Trifecta is heavily prioritizing this Hu Yi. Not many other teams are picking him second overall in their draft.
Really fallen, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. It's been the Artemis that's really stepped up. I think that Artemis and Gibalanke have really taken over that hunter role overall. I mean, Snoopy played so well on the Artemis last game. I think that those are the two kind of de facto picks, at least until Chernobog comes along. A little bit of a spoiler for our Esports Weekly segment. We're going to be talking about Chernobog, and I think he's really, really good. But we'll get to that next week.
Well, he's available this week.
No, next week.
Oh, is it next week?
Yes.
He's on, oh, I thought it was this week he'd be available.
Week 5, I know.
Well, that makes some sense.
Asking about it as well, because I think that we will see a lot of teams prioritizing that. But that's just my gut feeling. Until then, I think that Hachiman is still a solid pick. He still does all the same things where he's safe in lane. He can do it in the early, mid, or late game, but doesn't bring that same like big power spike at any stage like Hu Yi can turn fights so well with Ricochet and his ultimate.
Scary D trying to return some of the damage that fineokay had given him a little bit earlier on. Mid lane so far, Paul's in a bit of a better position than last game. This mid lane matchup is so important for me in terms of pressure in the early stages. Hurriwind had it last game when he was solo against Thoth. Now Raijin against Thoth. Hurriwind now going to be pressured against. And that's why you see Homiefe floating mid a little bit earlier there to try and relieve some of that early on. Allow him to hit that level 3 and get all his abilities online.
I think that Paul's going to have a much easier time with the Raijin because Paul's one who usually wants to box with the opposition, while Thoth can take 1v1s very, very well. Soul just is so hard to deal with in those 1v1 situations. Raijin can dump his whole kit very safely from a distance and get solid damage off and still have the leap to get away, and if Paul gets those opportunities to be aggressive, I expect he'll take them.
Nice little workout Homiefe as well. Just stole away back copies on the left-hand side earlier on. Just denied some of the farm out of Mask, forced him to soak mid lane as we tune into Duo and see that nice little taunt from NeiruMah onto Jigz. No real follow-up available then. It's mainly about wave clear focus at the start of the game.
Man, fine. Lost all pressure now in this lane, and Scary's gotten a lot of Warriors Blessing stacks. He's doubling fineokay right now in the Warriors Blessing stacks, and that's why he's so much healthier.
Yeah, on top of that, he's completely out of potions too, fineokay here, so he's going to be very careful on this right-hand side, especially if we do see a bit of pressure from Mask coming round. Next up, if the driving strikes down, Hercules is definitely a sitting duck in this lane.
But he did pick up Sprint at level 1 to give himself some degree of safety against the Nemesis, which I think is a really smart pickup for fineokay, because otherwise he was going to get camped often with something like a teleport. In this spot now, Mask has a much harder time coming over and getting an easy kill. Not he can still get kills, don't get me wrong, but he'll have to earn it a little bit easier.
You can see on the map at the moment that Homiefe just a little bit further ahead now than Mask, so that early pressure from him has allowed him to get in a bit of a better situation. Will hit 5 a little bit earlier on. Keep it out for a Mercury. He's one of those gods that can lane gank, which is something that you don't often see. And it's very difficult to ward against majority of the time.
Kind of have to ward between tier 1 and tier 2 towers, but you have to walk there if that's going to happen, homie. Thought about going for it in the mid lane, but decided against it. Was really looking to be aggressive there because Mask was still sitting at level 4.
I was going to say as well, I think if Paul didn't hit level 5 just then, if he would have got in, Paul hit level 5, that could have been a problem for Homiefe.
Certainly.
But no real pressure there for the time being. Paul working on that more than likely Soul Reaver. We've seen a lot of the times as first item when we see the tier 2 rush coming out there. Whereas Hurriwind going to go for the cooldown reduction on top. No real surprises.
And I like that Hurriwind's going back to the Mage's Blessing that Paul did not go for. Like I said, it's just the Mage's Blessing interacts with both the Hieroglyphic Assault and the Glyph of Pain. So you're getting that passive twice every time you're clearing the wave as Thoth. That just ups your clear speed by so much and gives you opportunities to stay in lane a little bit longer. Your MP5 is better. I think this is it's just too good to pass up, and Hurriwind's been able to stick around this whole time because he can just back and buy boots now whenever he's ready.
I will say I agree about the MP5 thing. I think MP5 is one of the underrated stats in the game a lot of the time. You can't use abilities if you don't have mana, and sometimes it's nice to be able to regen that even if you're completely out, because one ability can be the difference between life and death.
Certainly, and with Boots 2 and Lost Artifact, your MP5 is very, very low. Lost Artifact gives some, but not nearly enough for how many abilities you need to use as a mage to clear the wave early on. I mean, Paula doesn't have MP5, and he has to go back to base way earlier than Hurriwind just because he's completely out of mana. Hurriwind gets a full rotation of skills more than Paul had available.
So what are we going to be seeing Mask and Homiefe build into here? Is it going to be haste and katanas for both?
Homie has been a big fan of the Hasten Katana. I still feel like Stone Cutting Sword is really, really strong on Mercury because it gives him pseudo penetration and some protection, while also more power, but it is a lot more expensive than the Hasten Katana, so I wouldn't be surprised to see Hasten for either one of these characters. I think it likely will be for both. Mask could hold on to it, build into some pen, and then go into a Heart Seeker or something like that.
I mean, Stone Cutting's not bad on Nemesis either, right?
No, it isn't. I think Stone Cutting is probably just 100 gold too expensive to be thought of as really, really strong by a lot of pro players. It is an expensive item that slows down your build by a decent amount. And I really feel like the cost difference between Stone Cutting and Hasten Katana is the reason we see so much more of the latter.
Well, you can see the stacks in the solo lane just catch up a little bit more. Scary D now at 10 stacks on his Warrior's Blessing to the 4 of fineokay. Definitely a better job of poking. Obviously a lot more mobile, and it's kind of tricky for a Hercules to pin someone down with that amount of mobility.
fineokay hasn't hit him since the last time we checked in over
Yeah.
there. I guess that's pretty crazy. Scary's really wrestled control away of this lane. Now, at this point, now that fineokay has that silver breastplate, he's got an easier opportunity to make plays and have those boxing opportunities because he just has more physical protection than his opposition at this point.
That's a little bit of poke out from Paul there with the Percussive Storm, just catching Homiefe with the Raijin as well. And on top of that, he has that Soul Reaver online now, I should say. So he's going to do a little bit more burst than probably bargained for. Although, he's gone for that over mobility, which can cause a bit of a problem for him up against the fastest god in the world.
Certainly can. And if I'm on CLG, that's exactly what I'm calling for, is to play aggressive now onto Paul, knowing that even if he's got beads and a leap in his ultimate, you probably burn him down pretty quickly because he's already slowed down in that ult. When you slow someone down when they've got full boots, it really hurts them, but they still have at least some mobility to juke around. At this point, Paul will be a sitting duck in that taiko drums.
I was going to say, at this point in time in Game 1, it was a very similar story. It was a slow started endeavor by both these two teams. It seems to be the case again. But when you look at the compositions they both have, it does make a lot of sense. They're both very late game focused.
The team fight potential for CLG is really, really strong, but Trifecta has a pretty decent team fight in their own right, but they just have to be really, really strong with their target calling in the middle of team fights, because it's got to be Mask's Nemesis ult into Scary D's Fatal Strike, reset that cooldown, get the next person low. Paul has to set someone up with taiko drums and let Scary D keep those executes coming. CLG's margin for error feels a lot bigger in these team fights because Hurriwind can just stay at a distance and throw out damage easily.
Homiefe just roaming around that left-hand side. We're looking for a bit of pressure or some free camps to take away. Won't be able to find it this time round as the boulder used by fineokay. NeiruMah going to get a nice turn off onto Homiefe, and I believe that caused the beads to be used by Homie as the banana symbol indicated.
It did.
It doesn't really indicate that, I'm just saying.
Well, he was yellow, a lot like the banana, so it was kind of close. You know, it worked out. Yeah, it beads there for Homie. Unfortunate, but like I said, he's really only worried about the CC from Paul, from Neil, and from Neil, because he's not going to spend a lot of time in solo right now, especially now that he doesn't have beads. You don't have a lot of opportunities to kill an Achilles in lane. And Mask's ultimate is just going to be negated by maximum velocity. So you don't need beads that badly for Homie here. It's unfortunate, but he'll be okay.
Would you like to maybe get something else other than beads this game then?
I was just thinking that, like, maybe it's worth to go Blink at level 1, but at the same time, it doesn't give you that much more kill potential, because the way that Blink initiations work is you usually want to blink directly onto the mage and then force their escape and then punish them with whatever chase down skill that you have. But Mercury, you kind of want to blink and then go straight into the 3 in order to set up your mid laner for the damage. And if you do that, then your chase potential after the beads and leap isn't that good anyways. And Sonic Boom can close that gap as is, so you don't need blink that badly as Mercury. I think that going for the beads is just a little bit safer. You do lose a little bit of explosiveness, but it really doesn't hurt him that much.
Junglers have really not made an impact in this game so far. They're the telltale people about where the pressure is going to come from. Kind of expected to see Trifecta focus on fineokay on this right-hand side. Obviously, with an Achilles and a Nemesis combination, that early game damage can be pretty strong against a Herc that doesn't have his items online. But that window's closed now. Breastplate of Valor's online.
I mean, it's really just a level 1 sprint that completely negates all the potential aggression from Mask in that lane, because he knows that they have almost no kill potential now that fineokay has that relic available to him. Just the best pickup possible. And I think a reason why Nemesis has fallen out of favor, in conjunction with some nerfs, is that people have kind of just realized that you don't need teleport as much as in the solo lane. People have learned how to play the map and learned to time their back so that teleport isn't as necessary. And being able to pick up sprint at level 1 is just such a big determining factor against Nemesis.
Well, at the moment, I mean, Trifecta playing a little bit more aggressively, I would say, looking for some picks. Not going to find the taunt on Homiefe, but Mask will find his ultimate. Sonic Boom channeled through, and it's an ult for ult exchange.
No problems for Homie there. Didn't have the beads, but again, didn't really need them. Snoopy will meet up with Mask, but
Mask can't do much without his ultimate now. Nope. Obviously, using that in the last little skirmish against Homiefe means Snoopy just eats a couple of autos and goes, okay, yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's fine. I've got Devo gloves, so cool.
I'll sustain that back up, no problem. Jigz going to come over there just to top him up in health as well as NeiruMah gets his purple buff once more. I'm glad to see teams actually using the purple buff a little bit more so now. We used to see once upon a time people not really caring about it. It's much better than a lot of people think.
It really is, man. This is a really strong buff that I think has flown under the radar for a long, long time. It makes a big difference in your damage to the tanks in lane. It makes a big difference to you basically are doing true damage in lane a lot of the time in the early game whenever that Prot aura is, or Prot Shred aura, I should say, is on your side. I think that you're right. It's about time that teams really learned how good this purple buff was, and that it's not just about the golden experience you get from the buff, but the fact that it actually gives you a pretty solid benefit as well.
Homiefe and Mask both picked up the Hasten Katana, as we kind of alluded to and potentially expected from those two. The thieves being worked on by both the supports. Jigz just a little bit further ahead than that of NeiruMah now, and I think that's just because Neil hasn't headed back to base, but also he did pick up that Oracle's Chalice, so it delays his stacking build a little bit more so, but does allow for better wall coverage.
Well, Jigz picked up a health chalice of his own right, so a little bit
Fair,
a little bit cheaper, but still a chalice one way or the other. Jigz was pretty far ahead in his Gauntlet of Thieves stacks last game. This time it'll be a closer race between the two to stack that up. That was another reason we saw Jigz stay in lane so much last game, was because he just wanted his Gauntlet of Thieves stacks as early as possible, and he'll probably do more of the same in this game.
It's been a while since I thought I was watching a European Season 2 game, but here we are. With only a 500 gold difference between the two, CLG do have a slight edge.
Man, I just got done casting Cryptic, and they fight more than anyone else. Like, they fight for no reason at all a lot of the time. And now to this, it's changing gears doesn't quite describe. You're changing vehicles. I went from a Maserati to a tricycle almost in speed.
Yeah, I do feel like the vehicle's currently just in neutral for both these two teams right now. One of them will push into drive eventually. We'll find out when, or probably around the red buff, which is where you kind of expect it to be. As always, CLG currently have the ward coverage around here. Hurriwind, now level 12, has his second relic slot available for him. We'll have to choose what he's going to go for next, more than likely Aegis, as NeiruMah gets contested around those left-hand harpies.
fineokay shows up and delivers some poke onto Paul, but he'll eat some. NeiruMah
He got
is going to
abandoned.
get really abandoned is the right word. Paul gets pretty low for himself in the mid lane there. He's going to dash away, but sprint used. Snoopy still wants it.
Snoopy does get it as well with the mounted archery. Just comes through in time. Mask ults him in response, but it wasn't enough to stop him getting the kill. 2 kills in 2 seconds. Caster's Curse is saying slow game, and now the middle tier 1 tower already dropped below half health. Full minion wave coming in. CLG, however, going to turn their attention to the left-hand side of the map.
Next Gold Fury could be on the list for CLG, but they did use a lot of ultimates. Only Homie still has his. Hurriwind's very low on mana. Pretty conservative to not go for Gold Fury, knowing that Neil and Paul were just sent back to base, but Neil did have that ultimate, and he's already back, so probably the right call.
Pressure on Hurriwind, but Hurriwind just dashes away and cleans up the kill with the finger tap of death. Scary D in here though, and he will answer back onto Snoopy to make it a 1-for-1 jungle for Hunter. Gold Fury still available. CLG do have very good ward coverage here though.
CLG, Hurriwind didn't back. He's got his ultimate, but I don't know how much mana he really has. Now, has a lot of MP5 ticking. Truly Homie you got to watch out for. Sonic Boom's ready.
And he's channeling it now, looking for the opportunity to do so. Slowing down Trifecta for a moment, but Scary D round the back. Sonic Boom was late. It wasn't even on target, and because of that, Paul will clean him up. Gold Fury goes to Trifecta. My oh my, it took him 2 games to do something.
They got there though. That evens up the gold difference pretty nicely for Trifecta. They also get a kill onto Homie, chase out his beads and his ult all at the same time. That's a pretty big win for Trifecta, using NeiruMah's ultimate to make sure they've got numbers pushing into the enemy jungle. CLG just takes a little bit too long to clear their own red, and as a result,
stuck around a little bit too long.
Well, that was going on. Did fineokay get that tier 1 tower on the right-hand side? Is that when that just fell? Yeah.
Yes.
So it kind of answered back the gold loss from Trifecta. CLG still technically in the lead then in terms of gold at the moment because of that tier 1 tower on the right-hand side going down, which can always be answered back eventually. Snoopy, level 13, has the execution online now. Zap, though, going to go for some crit options this time round, which makes sense against some of the squishier targets that you need to kill quick.
You do. You need to have something to do against this Mercury, and reducing his damage output with a Poison Star makes a lot of sense for Zapman. It also makes sense for Snoopy to not go for a crit build because of who he's passive, where you can only get crit once every so often. It means that you're basically guaranteeing that you lose trades unless the enemy hunter gets really unlucky with their crits. So just going for a more traditional pen option right away, I think is smart.
Homiefe also finished off that rage now too. We'll see what he can do with that. But Trifecta, after getting the Gold Fury, turn their attention to the Pyromancer. fineokay, though, is on frontline duty. He's going to need a bit of damage, and NeiruMah going to get thrown around a little bit, as you do as a support player, but nothing more comes of it, other than tier 1 tower mid. Homiefe sees a window, takes the window.
CLG has played the map very well thus far, has been very cognizant of where Trifecta is, where their space to operate has been, and that's 2 tier 1 towers that have gone down while Trifecta has been distracted by objectives. Now, in one of those objectives, Trifecta is likely not worried about, and that's when they got the Gold Fury in exchange for their tier 1 and solo, but that time to lose your tier 1 mid for nothing probably doesn't feel that good.
So the moment with how this one's looking, I'm excited about this set for a couple of reasons more than anything. It's like a reversal of fortune. This could be a 2-0 for CLG if they can continue playing this way, and that'll kind of answer back how spring went for them, where they did find the double. They did the double against Trifecta there. This time around, though, Trifecta got off to a good start, but the season's got on now. CLG seem to be starting to establish themselves a little bit more so, starting to rise to the top against some of these oppositions that on paper they're expected to beat at this stage in the tournament.
I think that this is pretty important for CLG to get a statement victory here, and Game 1 certainly fit that bill where Trifecta only get 1 kill, and that was very early on in the game. CLG, if they can continue to play like they did in Game 1, and they're off to a pretty decent start here, but Trifecta certainly punching back a little bit better than they did in that first game of this set. CLG definitely feels like they're starting to get on a better roll.
Well, it's no hidden fact that there was a lot of aggression going on from Trifecta in terms of the start of this split, but hold on a second, Scaredy under pressure has to ult away. It was a good time from NeiruMah to make him the room, but Neil's going to get caught and needs help from Paul. Drums of War are used, but Homie with the Sonic Boom through didn't really find the target he was after. Trifecta do relieve the pressure and get away from the danger they found themselves in.
Homie got blinked forward, Neil tossed back and served up. Jigz gets the last hit credit, but that's all Homiefe making that happen. Homie's using Sonic Boom there, not to really deal a lot of damage, but just to distract and force Trifecta back. And the damage that it ended up doing was, in the end, relevant, because that sets up the pick on the Neil afterwards.
Hurriwind and fineokay pretty far forward here as Homiefe and Jigz start up the Pyromancer with the rage and the extra bit of crit coming out as well. He may be able to burst this down relatively quick, but Scaredy's here, gets engaged on by Homiefe in the beautiful time to make sure he can't steal that away.
Oh, Zap gets plucked back. Didn't use the beads, did use the Aegis. So ends up losing 1 relic, but not both at least. CLG secure the objective for themselves. And their team communication seems to have gotten so much better with where their target focus is going to be. Even at the very beginning of that last fight, where Scary is on his XP camps, Homie, instead of just doing something and throwing them away to try and secure them, clearly communicates to Hurriwind, I'm throwing Scary to you. And that set up for a stun that I don't think Scary was ready for. I never saw Hurriwind. I wasn't looking at the mini-map quite enough there because his shot came out of nowhere and ends up paying off beautifully for CLG. So you can tell their team communication is getting better and better.
NeiruMah as well going for the Cursed Ankh, and it's upgraded already. They're really wanting to try and shut down some of the sustain that CLG have. Most of it's on Jigz, but also fineokay with the mitigate wounds. That will actually increase his damage taken, and they could burst him down relatively quickly as soon as he pops out in the engagements, which is kind of a standard thing a warrior like Hercules wants to do.
Very much so, and I'm surprised that that's the only anti-heal, though Scary did just finish that Pestilence. Still feels like Paul has a lot of pen in this build, like going for pen boots, then Spear of the Magus, then Obsidian Shard. I wonder if instead of Obsidian Shard, he can just go for Divine Ruin in that spot and get some extra anti-heal as well.
Gold Fury to CLG, uncontested by Trifecta. At least there was no real attempt made to take that one away. They just weren't in the position where CLG were. 4-2 then. Gold lead extends to about 3,000.
And Scary's done a gross amount of damage so far, 9,000. The next highest is 6,000. He's done a lot in the player damage department, but the rest of Trifecta is just lagging a bit behind their counterparts more often than not. I mean, especially in that mid lane, 2,000 damage differential between Hurriwind and Paul. Paul has not been able to make a big impact so far in this game.
In fairness, though, I mean, against a Thoth, what can you really do? You try and walk up to the wave to clear it and get a bit of poke damage off, and instead you eat 3 shots to the face and lose half your health and take a trip back to base. So kind of have to play passive against the artillery-style bird cannon in the mid lane.
You can, but you can also try and just get up on him and play very aggressively. Dash on top of him. Use Taiko drums whenever he dashes away, because that'll still be in range if he's already used his wall. There are things you can do that I think that Trifecta, again, just hasn't been as aggressive as I would like them to be. And historically, that's been where they've seen their most success, is when they just play very aggressively. Because teams, especially teams like CLG, this is their pace. They like to slow it down. They like to wait to the mid to late game, especially where their team composition features Mercury and Thoth. Like, of course they're not going to try and fight you in the early game. You have to make them fight you, and Trifecta just didn't really do that.
And they've not done that so far. For the most part, they did find 1 or 2 small pieces of excitement for ourselves. Gold Fury did go down on a couple of kills too. It's definitely better than game 1 look from Trifecta, even though the pace has been very, very similar to a European standard of game, and that is for sure. Everyone's pretty much going to be full build and full itemization before I think we see a major team fight.
Feels that way, doesn't it? I mean, Homie's getting pretty close. He also picked up a Poison Star for himself, probably for the slow and for that ability to 1v1 Zapman or Mask. Now remember, like I said, Hui passive will prevent Zap from getting crit over and over again by this Mercury, so Homie might be more incentivized to go after Paul or for Mask, but usually when either of those characters uses their ults, you kind of have to disengage. With the Poison Star, maybe Homie has a chance to just stand his ground and fight it out.
Scary D could be way out of position here, but he's going to get away with it. I thought fineokay might actually just walk into the jungle and find out 3 members of Trifecta were all grouped up there with Scary D on the other side of the map. They had a big opportunity there, CLG, but they won't be able to find it this time round. Instead, just about farming. Scary D back on the right side of the map in his own territory now. Gold Fury down for another 2.5 minutes. Only the Fire Giant for either side to really look at here.
Pyromancer is going to be respawning pretty soon, and last time it was up, CLG burned it very quickly. And you heard Tom mention it during the picks and bans. Hachiman Heavenly Banner plus Mercury Shred on these objectives is a recipe for a quick one that Trifecta really has to be ready for, and they just haven't been there on time quite yet. This time, however, they are. I love how well they're positioned around this side of the map and the ward vision that they have.
Keep an eye on Homiefe, who's wrapping around the back too. fineokay all in and already near enough dead, but he will get his heal off and heal back up. Mask, though, takes down Jigz, and still under pressure is fineokay and Hurriwind. Around the back, Snoopy uses the mounted archery to reposition back towards the team. But it was a good pick from Trifecta. Cost them quite a few of their ultimates, though. They got to turn their attention to the Pyromancer.
Four ults there just for 1 kill, but fineokay once again in trouble, and this time brought down. Can't escape that time around. Scary get a blink forward. Snoopy very low. Homie's ult
Beautiful.
Doesn't really get anything, whereas Mask gets himself another kill.
Great work there from Scary D, just to blink over the wall, shut down Snoopy. We knew the mounted artillery was down, so he didn't really have any full-on escape. Hachiman is a little bit limited on that after the ultimate is down, but Homie trading off with Scary D. The rest of Trifecta focusing on the Fire Giant. Hurriwind also distracted by this little skirmish in the mid lane. Fire Giant's going to go to Trifecta.
I don't mind that Homie and Hurriwind don't go in for that Fire Giant, because they likely just die if they do. They nearly found picks in the mid lane, just didn't work out for them. But Trifecta, this is the aggressiveness that we were kind of waiting for. I mean, NeiruMah gets his best taunt of the entire day. That's the best play NeiruMah's made all set so far, is that double taunt onto the 2 tanks of fineokay and Jigz. The communication was good. You Nem alt 1, you dump everything you have into fineokay. All right, he's getting away. Let's switch over to Jigz, chase him down very nicely for Mask, and it works out really well for Trifecta. But now the question is, what do they do with this Fire Giant buff? Because they aren't ahead by that much at all at this point. I wonder how much CLG is going to be willing to give up off the back of this Fire Giant. I think giving up tier 1s is okay for CLG, but I think it'd be a mistake to sit on your hands and just give Trifecta your entire side of the map, because it's an even game right now with one team having Fire Giant. I'd rather fight into that than a team who's got an 11k gold lead because I just gave them every tower in Gold Fury.
And Trifecta's game plan clearly is take out the front line in the Hercules and the Terra, and the back line will crumble. If you look at the back line, their self-peel is all they've really got. They're not great at peeling for each other in the grand scheme of things. That could cause some problems. So Phoenix could be under pressure here from Trifecta on the left-hand side. Gold Fury's already down, and all... well, 4 members, I should say, are on this left-hand side. Scary D is keeping Homiefe busy from split pushing in the mid lane, which I don't think is a terrible idea in the world.
See, CLG is positioning like they want to defend this tier 2, but I don't know if they really want to defend this first one because it feels like it because they've got some key relics on cooldown. Homie no beads, Hurriwind no Aegis, Snoopy no Aegis. And those are really big to keep themselves out of danger, whereas Trifecta has got the full grip of relics ready to go for this next team fight. So I wouldn't be surprised if CLG leave open 1 or 2 tier 2 towers here, but as soon as their relics are up, be a little bit more aggressive in their defense.
Trifecta hanging around mid and the left-hand side. Now 5 strong in the mid lane. Keep an eye on NeiruMah. He'll probably be the engager with the dash taunt unless CLG look to start things off themselves, especially if you can see fineokay land some of those Earthbreakers.
No blink for NeiruMah, so his taunt has got to come off a dash or just straight up walking up to one of those frontliners. Scary does have the blink, but you really feel like Trifecta has to get these fights started with a taunt into a Nemesis ult. Anything other than that feels a little bit wonky to me.
Red buff's about to spawn in CLG's jungle here, and Mask is hanging around. So is Homiefe. In that matchup of Mercury versus a Nemesis, is the one with an innate advantage against the other, would you say?
The shield makes it really hard for Mercury because he can just kill himself with his crits, but the fact that Homie does have Deathbringer, if he can dash through the shield, knock it out with that hard CC, and then start to crit down Mask with the Poison Star and Deathbringer, I imagine Homie would end up on top.
Not upset with Trifecta playing this one slow, just knowing that they've got to deal with the artillery cannon that is Hurriwind. And on top of that, they've also got sonic booms coming from around the back at any given opportunity. So play it slow, wait for the opportunity. NeiruMah gonna tank up, get a 3-man taunt as they all walk towards it. Jigz taking a lot of damage as round the back came Mask to cause a problem. The tier 2 tower goes down, but the re-engages off as Zap was under pressure.
Homie just gonna escape into the jungle, and look at all the relics burnt now. Scary delivered by fineokay, good shell by NeiruMah, and now Fine is the focus. Fatal Strike will make him pay, and this could be a Phoenix opportunity now for Trifecta.
fineokay has to play around that cursed Ankh, because every single time you see the taunt from NeiruMah, if he pops the Ankh, they're going in on him. If they don't pop the Ankh, they're not worried about the Hercules. Keep an eye on that relic. So important. Talk about important. Homiefe needs to get his running shoes on as quick as possible because the whole of Trifecta are now on this right-hand side, and Scary D's even lurking, looking for Homie, who's been caught in that wave. Doesn't have his ultimate available. The trap is set.
I mean, Homie does have blink and beads here, so he's got some opportunity to escape, and will take it with that blink. Good reaction to blink up and over that shield from Achilles.
Actually works out pretty well for CLG. Sometimes your junglers can be like, what's my jungler doing up there? Well, what he did was actually defended a tier 2 tower, whether he meant to or not.
Yep.
He bought time for CLG to respawn, get back, and maybe defend that tier 2 tower without losing the extra gold that was about to come from it.
And CLG just has to find a way to reinitiate at the right times. That one, they kind of use all of their initiation at once. Homie goes in, Jigz pops the ultimate, and Trifecta play a great patient game in that spot where they back it up. They don't have any healing of their own, but let's just wait it out a little bit. They use the shell at the right time, and then taunt plus Ankh onto fineokay. Nemesis ult not needed at that point. You just get to blow him up very, very easily. CLG, if they can try and keep the pressure on a Trifecta or understand when Trifecta truly wants to turn up the heat, then those are their better opportunities to fight.
CLG is just on the back foot this game with how their composition is formed. Where is the engage? It's an Earthbreaker, it's a Sonic Boom, or it's Jigz dashing in. Outside of that, they have to let Trifecta come to them, and that's where Trifecta have been stronger in these late game fights, is waiting for those right opportunities to get 2 or 3 taunts at the same time. That's
huge. If fineokay survives a taunt and Nemesis ult combination and then can get himself back in the fight, that's the best way for CLG to turn a bad engagement good in their favor.
Also, Hurriwind's playing Thoth and can just win a fight by himself.
Taunt on both the tanks, and one of the tanks is already dead. Last one does get away. Final Judgment used, but only hitting the front line of Scaredy and NeiruMah. fineokay are going to fall down momentarily, but scrap that. It was Snoopy's choice instead. Aegis used, and the Raijin, the burst damage is enough to bring down the whole squad. 2 members left. Make that 1. Trifecta could just go down mid lane potentially here.
They could, and now Homie's kind of dangled himself out there. Now he's got speed buff, and he's still the fastest god alive, so he will outrange that damage from Trifecta. But Trifecta's got a decent amount of time here to potentially go for an end. Only problem is they don't have a wave, and the Titan will be pretty tanky with the 2 towers up on the side lanes.
Awkward game for CLG this one, but well played by Trifecta. They just played to their comp strengths, waited for the right stage of the game, and pressed taunt. Kill the tanks, kill the game, win the game.
And this is the scary thing about Trifecta, where they can get just wiped game 1, just get stomped entirely, and then turn around and have a really good performance like that. You really can't ever feel comfortable against this team, because that was the veteran presence of that squad, where it's like, okay, that sucked. Let's just reset. Let's just do better this game 2, and they did just that.
That game felt a lot about picks and bans for that one. When you look back at how the team fights went towards the end, you're like, well, what else is there that CLG can do here? There's nothing.
Right. Yeah, their initiation was a little bit wonky, but I think they were really counting on that counter initiation option off of NeiruMah's taunts. I think it was the cursed onk from Neil that turned that entire game. I really feel like that is what ended up being a little bit too much for fineokay to handle. Cursed onk makes Terra and Herc they looked like paper. I mean, they died so quickly.
They died so quickly. A famous caster once said that. Now, though, you guys get to choose who you think was MVP for that game. You get to choose someone from Trifecta. Obviously, I think NeiruMah's definitely got a shout with how he performed that.
Yeah, I think he struggled a little bit in the early game, but everything Trifecta did went through Neil in the late game. Everything.
Well, that's it for that. So what do we want to see in the game 3 then? Because obviously it's a best of 3 set here. It's 1-1 so far. Like, what we expect in the game 3?
I think that maybe prioritizing the Athena over the Terra if you're CLG would be a little bit tempting. I don't think I'm changing too much, though, on CLG. I feel like they just were a little bit cleaner, kept their lead a little bit better. Those Athena taunts wouldn't have been so impactful.
Well, let's get over to the desk, and we'll take a break for a moment as we get ourselves ready for game 3. Desk, how'd it go?
Well, this one went. It did not go quickly, but it certainly went into the night. Fantastic play out here. You know, I liked the Mercury performance, but it just wasn't enough. And I have to agree with what the commentator said. The Onk, that's the word I'm looking for. Sorry, folks. The cursed Onk upgrade made the difference.
It's not just the cursed onk, obviously, that was with the taunts. Perfect setup onto the Hercules was also the Achilles Nemesis combination. 7th and last pick overall. Last 2 picks out of Trifecta, really dealing with the Hercules. This is the first Hercules lost between these 2 teams together in the summer split, going 3-1 in total. And I think that Trifecta purposely didn't pick this Hercules selection in anticipation that fineokay would eventually bring this out, and Trifecta having a good anti-Herc strategy.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, Zapman teams always try to beat the meta, whether or not it's Zapman specific or just kind of serendipitous. Going back to your team and watching him with Eager as well, Zapman has always really tried to be on the squad that, oh, Khepri's destroying, we found a way to beat out Khepri, right? And I think that's kind of what we're looking at here is both of these solo laners play Hercules, only one can have it. So rather than fight over it and waste a ban, quote unquote, find a way to go ahead and beat it. So great job there. But the man of the hour, Paul in the middle lane, 4-1-4 for the Raijin mid lane. Great stuff coming out of this guy. And you noted in the picks and bans, I brought up the X's and O's reason why I like this, and you were like, screw it, Paul's on Raijin.
He didn't even build the Divine Ruin that you were talking about.
Not at all.
It was the Pestilence coming out of Scary D and the Cursed Onk from the NeiruMah, and that's just what you really need. You need the damage from your mid laner, and Paul was bringing it today. 4-1-4 on the Raijin. Keep in mind, he had a very spectacular performance in games 2 and 3 in week 1, so I think that if CLG want to close out this set, they need to start looking at Paul a little bit more.
Well,